What is up, everybody? It's the Millie Maker Roundtable show. We're breaking down tournaments here. We're talking the Millie Maker over on our sponsor, DraftKings. Thanks a lot for having you guys. We got Richie Smalls in the chat. We got Chris saying what's up to Brad. Brad is always in here having a good time. We got all the people hanging out with us. So, Chris, and of course, I said Richie. Richie, he smashed the like. So you guys better smash that like while you're there hanging out with us here, talking NFL tournaments. We got Kurt and I, we're bunked up in the same house. Drew looks like he's in like a tech booth or something. I don't even know. But
yeah, we work that shutdown.
Oh, okay, that's right. Let's go to you first, Drew. How is the shutdown we work? And are you excited for week 7?
I am, yeah. I missed the show last week. Me and Kurt were in the path of Milton, so that wasn't very fun. So I was out of power all weekend, but yeah, happy to hop back on the wagon this week. It's been a wild season. Chalk from the first 2 weeks is starting to diminish, so we'll see how we can break down for tomorrow.
Yeah, and I've been close for sure. I've had some moments, so I'm looking to kind of continue that. I had a good college football day too, had some sweat, so got to keep moving that through. I feel like if you're doing good in college or NFL, like they cross paths, right? It's football. It's all the same stuff. So hopefully I can have a big Sunday. Kurt, I'll go over to you next. We're in the same house, so we're having a good time. I know people are loving the backdrops, but how's it going over there?
Pretty good. Excited to get after week 7. It kind of sucks we have like the biggest pass funnel teams play on non 1 o'clock, 4 p.m. Sundays. So we got the Bucks are on Sunday night, which I would love to go to that game, but I don't know. It's really late, boys. But Ravens Bucks, I'm excited for that. Most excited to get back to this main slate tomorrow. I'm ready to get after it. I'm staying up late for you boys, so I'm going to try to bring as much energy as possible tonight.
Yeah, Kurt, the fact that Kurt is up past 9 o'clock for you guys, I mean, that's a reason alone.
Come on.
I'm tired, but I got a Coke. We're ready to roll. We're ready to roll. We got caffeine in us. I'm watching Texas and Texas and Georgia, which Georgia is absolutely dominating Texas. Hopefully Texas can get the job done.
I got 3 on right now. I got the Georgia-Texas game, LSU, Arkansas, and Iowa State, West Virginia flex.
Oh, there you go. I only have the 1 up right now, but I ran into this house. I've been bouncing around from places, so I was able to get it nice and set up. But George, you sweat much college football today or no? Not really.
No, I had to go to a 1-year-old's birthday party. So
hell yeah, Drew.
I've been out of the loop except for MMA, which we chatted about. So that hasn't been the funnest so far. So this is the highlight of the day, guys.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, if we're competing with a 1-year-old's birthday party, I think we got them beat. I mean, I'll say that. I haven't had to participate in those, but those definitely have to be tough for sure.
They had some high noons. They were stocked up on some high noons, so we were okay. But this is still the highlight.
All right, well, let's dive in. Let's talk NFL tournaments. I got SaberSim up. I'm not screen sharing it, but I just want to say I have it up. And the reason why is I just did like a first just clean run, right? I used SaberSim's projections. I ran the sims. I didn't even touch the projections. Like I bumped one guy 0.1 and another guy 0.1. So what I'm getting at is I'll read off some of the stuff that we have with the sims too. It's just so people can like kind of get an understanding of what's kind of popping, what's not. For me, I noticed this week, dude, pricing is tight. Like for instance, like $500 feels like $1,000, right? $1,000 feels like $2,000. Everything, it just feels like very tight pricing this week. I think the flex spot tight end is open. We could see double tight end this week. I think we could see 4 receivers. I think there's a lot of different things that can happen. But one thing I want to think about when building lineups is, do the plays have upside, right? Because I need ceiling. And if it's a value play, I don't need the ceiling as much, right? Am I playing that guy just because, hey, he's a cheap guy that might be part of a game stack? That kind of works, especially the tight end position. We could see punt options that just help get plays into your lineup. Like last week, you needed Chris Godwin. There's weeks where you need Jamar Chase. Listen, if you need some spends, you have to figure out what are the positions I'm willing to maybe sacrifice some salary. So it's definitely an interesting week. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm going to be very price sensitive when thinking about plays for sure. Kurt, do you have any initial thoughts before we dive in?
No, ready to get into it.
Drew, anything you got?
No, I'll give you a 30-second spiel. So we brought this up a couple weeks ago with Rubio. When we start looking at the sim stuff, there's a couple games that really put you into like a certain game script, and it pays sometimes to just go against that a little bit. So obviously the sims are a huge help. But you'll see like I think it was like 3 weeks ago. It was a Seattle game, and like the running backs in both spots, it was like a 48-point total. We're getting crammed in. I was like, so, but all the other wide receivers in QB stacks were like 12% under. It's like, why wouldn't you play the wide receiver stacks if they're going to be that low owned and fade the running backs? And I think both running backs dudded. So sometimes it pays to like pay attention a little bit on what's getting crammed in and maybe swerve a little bit, especially in the Millie Maker at least.
Yeah, I mean, I love getting those takes, so definitely bring those on the show. Rants, London Jaguars, we're not doing that, man. Check out the Showdown playbook. That's why we got the subscription to Run Pure Sports. But let's get to it. Let's go first game up on Saberson. We got Packers. We got Houston Texans. It's like around a 47 total, and this is clearly going to be a game that I think you have to consider on the slate. My problem is I'm not absolutely in love with this game. I think there's parts of the game that I want to get exposure to. If I decide to spend a bit running back, and I'm struggling with running backs, there's not a lot of cheap plays to really get to. Joe Mixon's fine, right? Not a priority or anything like that. For me, the real guy I like is Tank Dell. If I had to pick one guy on the Texans side to like, it is Tank Dell. I don't mind CJ Stroud. I don't mind Jordan Love. I don't mind Jaden Reed, but this is not a game I'm just going to like full shove on and absolutely love. I believe JSU, I heard him talk about like in this game a little bit. For me, you can grab some pieces here and there, but I just don't think this is the spot that I want to take stands on. Kurt, maybe this is a game that you want to take some stands on and you're really excited about. Again, there's plays in this game, but for me, it's not going to be like the majority of my portfolio in this one.
So I would like this game obviously a lot more than you, and it's like you mentioned with the pricing, it's really tight and there's not really a cheap piece that you can like get attached to this game. Like, I mean, I don't want to do the whole Green Bay wide receiver thing. I don't trust any of them really. And last week we saw naked Jordan Love ship. I think naked Jordan Love lineups are very live the rest of the season. I don't want to play. I mean, obviously if you want to play for Jaden Reed, he's 7,200 now. And some of his stuff ends up being rushing touchdowns. So like, I'm completely fine doing naked Jordan Love. I don't care. He has like 8 different pass catchers. I don't want to try to team him up because I feel like I'm wasting potential ceiling spots at the receiver position. So I do have interest in Jordan Love. I have interest in this game because I think it's 2 quarterbacks who can keep the ball moving. And that's just kind of rare these days. So you don't want to go crazy, but I think like 2 or 3 pieces, if this game's like could easily snowball into like a 30-30 game. Favorites naked Jordan Love. That's my takeaway. And I like your Dell take too. I'm a big Dell guy, and obviously he's going to get a shit ton of volume with Collins out.
Yeah, Dell and Reed are definitely my favorites. I'm curious to get your take, Drew. I like the Love call naked. I talked with JT a lot about that last week, and I thought it made sense. I said to him, hey, I just want Jaden Reed with him. I don't care. But if I got some naked Jordan Love, like I could get away with it for sure. But again, there's other games I think I want to prioritize on this slate. Like, again, good plays. When I do my 3 max, I just don't think a lot of these plays are going to make the cut for something like that. But who are some of the plays you're looking at, Drew?
Yeah, I agree. I think this overall is a good game, but I think the pricing, like you talked about being price sensitive, most of the good spots are priced up. So like even Jordan Love getting priced up a little bit, Jaden Reed at 7,200. So you're kind of looking at, trying to find the middling pieces like Tank Dell at 6,500 makes a lot of sense from Houston. If they're going to put up 24 points, Stephon Diggs is getting up there towards 8K. So most of the problem with this game, and it's kind of reflected in the ownership a bit, is the pricing is so high. So for me, Dalton Schultz at 4,200 seems like a decent spot. It's close enough to punting off tight end where you still got a guy with some decent volume in a decent total. But I'm kind of with Kurt. I guess you were talking about Jaden Reed. Like that's probably the one guy that I would take to. But the problem is I don't like pairing him up with Jordan Love if I couldn't get another receiver, at least in the Millie Maker. So I'm not going to go naked Jordan Love. I get it. But I feel like there's some other spots, some other upside quarterbacks, possibly in some better spots we'll get to here in a minute. But for me, I think it's probably the Houston side. I think there's a little bit more value there. I will play some Josh Jacobs. He's at 6,400 on Green Bay. I think that's fine. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to play Schultz and then a little bit of Tank Dell. It's just one-offs. No, I don't see myself stacking this game up a ton.
Yeah, and another thing to call out too is if you play Tank Dell and Diggs and you run it back with CJ Stroud, that collectively costs a lot of money. And this week, that's just going to be a struggle for me. Same with Love. If you play him with someone, and honestly, to the point of like playing a naked Jordan Love, like I don't know, I just don't even know if I want to do that because like I just think I want to spend down more at my quarterbacks. That's kind of my concern. Like last week, my build, and I talked about it on some of the shows. Like I like the running backs and receivers so much last week that I actually punted down with my quarterback. Now I punted with Will Levis a bunch, and I had other cheap quarterbacks. I'm not saying that worked out great, but I just understood that I didn't think paying up for quarterback was my favorite. It obviously ended up being Baker Mayfield, but I feel this week is very similar to last week. Last week just had more value, and this week has even less value. So I think there's a lot of similarities with CeeDee Lamb to Justin Jefferson, who we'll get to and talk about, but we'll keep going on. Let's go to Dolphins and Colts, and this could definitely be a quick game to move on from. I think you can make the argument that the Dolphins, they are coming off the bye week, and that could help someone like Huntley and some of these Dolphin plays finally kind of find a way to get there. I just think 7-3 is still expensive for Tyreek Hill. Not dying to do that. I think Devon Achane could break the slate, but I think there's just better plays in the 6K range. And with the way Anthony Richardson is, I'm just off this game. This seems like a quick one that I can just pretty much move past. Kurt, what about you?
It's tough because, I mean, Indianapolis is a run funnel. So, and then Mostert got 19 carries last week. So, but I mean, they didn't give us any discount on a Chaney or a Mostert, despite them being in the split. But they're running the ball a shit ton, and it's almost like they're just. I mean, I'm pretty sure like one of the most run heavy teams the last 3 weeks because they have to be, obviously. So, I think I will sprinkle, especially for the Millies and stuff, sprinkle the 2 running backs because you can break it on Indianapolis. And I am a Huntley slut, so I probably will. And I know this offense it's a timing offense. It's coming off the bye week. This is the Millie show. I mean, you can get Tyreek Hill and Huntley for really, really cheap. I'm just saying.
It's a pretty good punt stack, honestly. It's pretty cheap.
Like, I mean, you literally the first quarter.
Huntley, Waddle, Tyreek is pretty cheap, and they still have a reasonably good total.
I think Huntley will rush them too. Like, I don't even want Waddle. I just give me one or the other. But you probably make more sense. But I could see Huntley running in one, maybe throwing 2 to Tyreek. That's the nut outcome I want. I hate playing Waddle. I'm going to be honest. I'm just a hater.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the bye week does help this Dolphins team.
How much is he?
51,
Huntley,
right?
Oh my God! Never mind. It's so cheap.
So I'll give you. I'll let Mangone go, but I will say, like in a spot like this, where like a really bad QB in a lot of senses, this is where you would really leverage stacking it up. Where like there's a good chance, like you wouldn't play a one-off Tyreek Hill when his QB sucks, but he's 5,100 with Waddle with Tyreek Hill. If Tyler Huntley has a decent game, then Tyreek Hill probably gets there, and Jalen Waddle probably gets there, and Tyler Huntley blows past his pricing. So this would be one of those, and they're low enough owned, you're not really eating into too much, but it would be one where like you would obviously, common sense, avoid a one-off when you can't trust the QB. But in that 2% of outcomes, you're going to probably want to stack up this Tyler Huntley when he throws, 2 touchdowns and runs 1 in or something.
Yeah, well,
remember, guys, Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley. Sorry, man, Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley. Just saying.
Yeah. The one thing I'll agree with you on, Drew, is like if you do play Tyreek, like, and you need salary relief on that team, like, yeah, just play Tyler Huntley with it, right? Because like he doesn't have to do if Tyreek is getting you the ceiling of performance, and again, it's if he is, and you believe that and play him, then Huntley's probably putting up a serviceable score at that price tag. So I definitely agree with that take. I mean, listen, I played Will Levis against the Colts last week. Okay. It's hard for me to go back and click Tyler Huntley and Tyreek Hill. So give me a break on that, Drew, but it sounds like you like, maybe I'm wrong. You like this team a little more though. No?
Well, I do. I like the Indianapolis side. So I like Richardson and Josh Downs. And they're also pretty cheap. So that works out. My point was more so of, if you're going to play a piece from this game, I'm not going to have a ton, but I will have stacks that'll be 3-way stacks with Huntley, Waddle, and Hill. And it's basically just looking for that game where if Hill gets there, like I said, I don't want to play him as a one-off, but if he gets there, Huntley probably gets there, and you might as well stack him up with Waddle, and maybe he gets 80 yards and a touchdown too. So, Waddle's pretty cheap. He's like $2K cheaper than he started.
I think Downs is the worst play on the slate tomorrow. The worst play on the slate.
That's too bad. Why?
He's priced as if Joe Flacco's his quarterback, and he's in a position that notoriously Anthony Richardson cannot throw accurate balls to over the middle slot kind of stuff. He can't throw an accurate ball there. And
so
he's priced as if Joe Flacco's
who's going to score?
I mean, I think Richardson likes just chucking the ball deep to his X receivers.
So Pittman.
He just closes his eyes and throws it to Alec.
He does. I mean, he cannot throw an accurate. I mean, we saw all preseason. That's why Downs went crazy when Flacco, and obviously he was getting healthier. That times up very well. But he's priced as if Flacco's his quarterback, and I think he's the worst player on the slate. Not to mention Miami has a good pass defense.
Fair enough. I'm going to play him.
Richardson can run 100 yards though. So I mean, I'm not saying don't play Richardson. I might still.
I mean, I guess the theme to start off has been like price sensitivity, and like a game like this has a 45-point total. You got two QBs that are, I mean, not two QBs, but Anthony Richardson 6K, his number one receiver, and then on Miami's side, the number two receiver in the 5Ks. Like this is a pretty good value spot. But again, I think it's like an upside spot where you would want to stack. I don't feel like this is a great one-off spot. So I guess, try not to talk in both sides of my mouth, but I don't love this game. But if I'm going to play this game, I want to go heavy on it, if that makes sense.
And it's salary
2 or 3
stuff too.
Yeah.
I get it.
I'll tell you this: if this was around the horn, and I was giving out points, I would have gave you a lot of points, Drew. You made some good points, right?
Thank
Like the total. I get everything you're saying, right? Like if you're not looking at names, right? You're just looking at, hey, this is what Vegas is saying, right? That all kind of makes sense. And you said it's a 45 total. I think I just want to double check because I'm seeing Pinnacle has 43, but just check. I mean,
well, give or take one. I mean,
true.
Some of these are 0.5s, and it's hard to do like 0.5 plus 0.5 nowadays.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
just watch if it trends down. But to be fair, like people want to talk about like loving the Bengals and Browns tomorrow, and that's a lower total than this one.
Cam Ewers got benched.
Probably, yeah. I thought that was going to happen.
This total has dropped.
Damn it!
It was 49. It opened at 49.
That's too high. That makes sense.
Yeah, it opened at 49. Now it's at 43.5. That's a pretty bad price or pretty bad total drop, but
it's definitely a big drop.
Imagine this was a 49-point game though with those pricings. That'd be pretty insane. Sorry to spend so much time on this game. It might just dud, but I just wanted to put it out there. Like in games like that where there's uncertainty, and again, Millie Maker stuff.
It's got explosive players though. Like I agree. Everyone in the comments, I agree, but it's the fact that they're cheap and they're explosive players. Tyreek explosive, Richardson explosive. I mean, it's just what it is.
You're playing for the explosive outcomes. The other thing that's encouraging is the bye week, right? Like the Dolphins having a bye week has to help. We'll see though. I don't know. That'll have too much of them though. Let's get to Buffalo and Tennessee, which I don't want to talk about that too much, to be honest. I'm not talking about the Titans unless it's Tony Pollard. And honestly, Tony Pollard is a really interesting conversation point because he's going to be chalk with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. And I think Tony Pollard is a big decision point on this slate. I think he definitely is a big one that you have to make a decision on. I'm leaning on being underweight in tournaments on Tony Pollard and looking to other plays. I just think they're going to have a really bad script. I'm a little nervous about this spot for sure. Depends what you think of Mason Rudolph in this spot, though. I just think he's going to struggle. He did good against, I think it was the Dolphins when he was in there, but that was the Dolphins, right? With Tyler Huntley in his first game. It's a totally different animal going against the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. And honestly, I just think the pricing on the Bills is just unnecessary to get to them. Like, I don't need to play Josh Allen. I talked about being price sensitive at my quarterback. I don't think I'm playing Josh Allen. Don't think it's that necessary. James Cook, not the worst player in the world, but honestly, the biggest problem is this Titans defense is pretty solid, right? Like all around. And I just don't see this game kind of having a back and forth. So I'm pretty much out on this game. Kurt, how about you?
Yeah, it's just Buffalo's run defense. I've always kind of targeted it. Pollard's going to be chalk. I'll probably be about the field. I don't really like anyone else in this game. Cooper just got there. I know someone made a comment, new toy, 11 catches. That's a lot for a newcomer. But basically a cross-off for me besides getting some match in the field on Pollard.
All right, Drew. Maybe you could talk about it. I know people love this, and Kurt said the stat, right? Oh, Buffalo's bad against the run, blah, 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 blah. I mean, dude, Derrick Henry ran for like 400 against him, right? I don't know how much that's like equating into all those stats and everything. But
it's a historic thing, though. I mean, it's been like that. Yeah. Was it Miami? When they went to Buffalo and literally ran for 300 yards against them? Like, they're embarrassing. It's just
that's because Tua can't freaking throw in the cold. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
they're averaging like 8 yards a carry, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying it's Tony Pollard chalk, and I don't know. You have to just kind of like weigh it out, and I think he's a bad chalk running back. Now, I'm sure in cash games, I'm sure he'll have exposure, but I just think he's bad chalk.
I'm scared of it, but
yeah.
I was high on him coming to the year, so fuck it.
What's that?
Drew, give me your take on it though. I need to hear.
Yeah, I think Pollard's bad chalk or should be bad chalk. I think if you're going to be 37%, let's call it 35 to 40% owned. He hasn't scored more than 19 points all season. You're going to go into, he's got a 16-point team total. I'm not loving that. I did run the Sims earlier today, and I got a bunch of Pollard, and I'm not going to fall for it. So I'm going to fade Pollard side, huh?
How much are you going to fade? What are you going to do, Mango?
So I'm getting 58% in the Sims right now.
Yeah, I got 52. So
I don't want that much.
I will be underweight.
I want to be at like 30.
I feel very confident going underweight on this play. Now I'll have some, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to be underweight. If it's 37%, I will not be having 37% Tony.
Yeah, that's basically where my stance is. Yeah. Overall, this game doesn't seem that appealing. Like you would think with the Buffalo side with such a good team total, it would be more, but it's not really doing much for me. Ironically enough, the Bills' defense is probably my highest exposure. So obviously you don't want to play that against Pollard, but that's probably the only two plays in this game really is Pollard, deciding what you want to do. And I guess if you have 3,500 left over, you can spend up on a decent defense and a good Vegas total against Tennessee.
All right. Next game up. This is the game I want to talk about. Seattle and Atlanta. I think this is definitely one of the games that I really like. And a lot of it's the pricing. So like for one, yes, Drake London is 6'9", but I just think he's underpriced and I want to be either with the field or overweight on him. You have Ray McLeod as an option that you could obviously mix in there at the receiver position. You have Darnell Mooney at 5'6". Those three guys are clearly going to be on the field and playing a ton. You also have a banged up Tyler Lockett. I don't know if he's in or out yet, but I know he is banged up. DK Metcalf and JSN, I think their prices are really good. I like Kenneth Walker. I know he's now questionable and it could turn into Charbonnet and that will shake up the entire slate. But right now, I think Ken Walker is solid. I think Bijan is solid. And honestly, if Kenneth Walker stays questionable, maybe Charbonnet is really interesting in this game. We just saw someone go in their time machine and play Sean Tucker and win a Millie Maker. I'm just saying, if Kenneth Walker is ruled in, Zach Charbonnet at 5'3" on a slate that we are struggling for salary in a game that could have a final score of 42-35, Zach Charbonnet is definitely in play, in my opinion, at 5.3K. Again, we're trying to win the Millie, not in a time machine like Mr. Sean Tucker, but I think Zach Charbonnet is a good play, even if Walker is in. If he's out, Zach Charbonnet will be super chalky and a really good play, and that'll be a big decision of how much weight you get to him. Another reason why I like this game is, again, I talked about being price sensitive, and I really think the Kirk Cousins and Geno Smith pricing is really nice. Specifically, Geno Smith. The one thing I really like about Geno in this spot is 5.8K is too cheap. He's been using his legs more. I've been loving him with this offensive coordinator. They're coming off 3 straight losses. Like, I think they're going to come out here swinging. I think this is kind of a must win for them because they're just absolutely like falling apart. Losing 3 in a row is not good. You have to really bounce back. You have to get dialed in. And I think they have the ability to. So I'm big on Seattle this week. I love this game. This is the one I want to target the most. Yes, I understand ownership will be coming along with it to a degree, but there's other games on this slate that are also gaining ownership. But this is my game right now. Kurt, how about you?
I mean, you mentioned it, the pricing on Cousins and Geno for quarterbacks that are so easy to stack in a game that could definitely snowball. There's a lot to like about it. And I think Lockett is like really cheap. Apparently he is good to go. And I think he's a great matchup against these two really good safeties. Just get stuff underneath those corner routes, get stuff past the flats in between the safeties. That's exactly what Tyler Lockett can do. I mean, Metcalf just kills me every week, but I'll be lower on him here. I kind of like the other two more. Second with Geno, just because I really respect those two safeties. And then Bijan, historically, just play running backs for Seattle. Just no problem with that. Got 2 touchdowns last week. I hit a giant parlay with Bijan 2 touchdowns, so no big deal. Also, 10% Sean Tucker owner here, so I own the time machine. What if I told you guys I had 10% Sean Tucker and every single lineup had Wicks or Marvin Harrison in it? How is that possible?
Did you really?
Yes, I had 10% Sean Tucker. I was talking about Sean Tucker in the group on the freaking RPS chat like 2 weeks before the season started. Anyways, nonetheless,
well, how did he do those weeks? How did he do those weeks?
Well, he wasn't needed. But is he going? All he needed was an opportunity, and now Rashard White's fucked. Rashard White he's the most inefficient runner on the team. That's sad.
Why didn't Sean Tucker get this opportunity last season? He's not a rookie.
He had like cancer or something. What are you talking about?
I mean, I didn't know he had cancer.
Jesus God, man, Goat.
There's no way. You're making this up. Sean
he had a heart condition. He had a heart condition come out of the draft. So all last year it was like a redshirt year. Or it was like a heart attack or something. It's like what Ron's son had. Ronnie Jr.
Okay.
Anyways.
You can pretty much say anything you want, and I'll just take your word for it at this point.
Yeah.
No, it was a heart thing.
Reattach a Neuralink from Elon Musk, like anything.
It was a heart thing. He was projected to be a 3rd round pick before all the heart stuff happened. Then he slipped. But anyways, nonetheless, Sean Tucker season. It's almost like this game is just priced differently than anything else on the slate. So for a game that could easily go back and forth, Ray's still in play. Ray's going to score eventually, guys. 4,400. Ray has to score eventually. I like that. I like Lockett. I think these two quarterbacks will probably be my highest owned tomorrow, besides some like Andy Dalton shares, but we'll get to that later. So no issue there. I'll see what tight end pricing is for Mr. Pitts, because he has been heavily involved lately, which is a breath of fresh air. And you can also play tight ends against Seattle. Tight ends and running backs are my favorite things to play against Seattle. He's 4,500. I think that's nice. So yeah, go hog wild here. I would like to be over on everybody, probably. Besides Metcalf.
Yeah, even don't mind Noah Fanta as well. And look at Jamie stirring up the chat. All right, settle down. It's a fun.
All you, Kurt.
Wait, what?
Don't worry about it, Kurt. Let's keep moving.
I didn't get the vaccine.
Let's go to. We don't need to touch.
Don't come near me, guys. I might have the vid.
Stop. All right, Drew, talk about this game, because it's for me. It's the game of the slate right now. I like it a lot. I just think it makes sense. And when I look at some of these other games we're going to get to, again, I'm going to like them, but this is the one I want to be well overweight on, and I think is the best one. We'll see what comes in. I think that Kenneth Walker news is big news, though, that we'll obviously be waiting on. But what are you doing with this game?
Yeah, this is a game that's moved up 3 points. Opened at 48, and now it sits at 51, I believe. So it should, like, the ownerships look like they're a little bit low than what they'll end up tomorrow morning. But I think this is obviously a game you're gonna, not to beat a dead horse, but you definitely want to stack up and probably have some run backs. This is probably one of those type of games where you're going to want to stack up, a QB on one side with 2 receivers, and you probably want 1 or 2 coming back in those, big upside outlier performances. So I have a lot more exposure on the Atlanta side with, honestly, I think I got Kirk Cousins with at least 2 pass catchers in every single lineup, and then with 1 run back. And then Seattle, I have them with 1 pass catcher and then 1 run back as well. So Zach Charbonnet would mix it up a little bit. I don't think he's terrible to stack with an existing Seattle stack anyways at the price. So we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, this is, again, no brainer. Obviously, you're going to want to play a pretty good chunk of this game in majority of your portfolio.
All right, let's get to the next one. Bengals and the Browns. Our guy Rubio Dimes would probably be talking about how great the Bengals offense is and blah, blah, blah. Honestly, this total is 42. And listen, early in the week, I was kind of getting baited into this game. The more I think about it, I don't know if I like this game. Now, the argument for the game is the Bengals offense is super efficient. The Browns defense isn't great. But my issue is some of the pricing, right? If you want Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and they're good plays, don't get me wrong, but like if they're going to have big games, they need to be pushed, right? You need to have the other offense doing something. The question is, can Deshaun Watson push it against this terrible Bengals defense? Because this Bengals defense ain't great either. I'm torn on how to handle this game. For me, I want to take an under approach. I mean, I understand, hey, if I got salary, of course, I'll grab Jamar Chase, but I like Jefferson more than him straight up. T. Higgins at 6'4", he's fine. But again, I think there's other plays I'm going to like. And on the Brown side, I really only like Njoku. I guess for cheap, I don't totally hate Elijah Moore. We talk about how pricing is just, we got to be price sensitive. And he's 3-2. And if he got me 6 DK points, I'm not saying it would for sure be on the winner, but I'm just saying if you need the salary relief and like Justin Jefferson went for 40, yeah, you're going to maybe need something that pairs with it that gets you like 8 DK points. So I think I'm staying away from this game. Kurt, what about you?
I mean, how differently would we be talking about this game if they just let Jameis just play? I mean, for the love of God, just put in Jameis. I hope Hendrickson. I don't feel bad saying this because of what he did, but I would love for Hendricks just to come through first drive and just snap the guy's leg in half. Put in Jameis, like get this guy out of here, inappropriately touching women. I mean, get Jameis in the game. This is ridiculous. And then if Jameis gets in, this game would be awesome. Elijah Moore, there's not much cheap to like. There's not like you probably had the Raiders cheap guys, and then Elijah Moore is like the true darts that you really have available that are you could talk yourself into tomorrow. So I don't mind that. And Joku, I think, is the guy that even Deshaun can at least put out decent performances with. So 4,100 to Joku, probably my favorite play. I wish I knew kind of what the workload would be for the Cleveland running backs, but we don't. So just a hard pass for me. And I love your point about how Cincinnati needs to be pushed, and I just don't see a scenario where Cleveland tries to or is able to push them with Watson back there.
All right. Drew, we'll go over to you. I'm curious to get your take on this game just because it's, I think it's you and I seem like we're in lockstep so far, and I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on this game because if you're going to load up, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it'll change my opinion.
No, I'm not going to load up. This total's come down 6 points since open. I do have a little bit of Njoku, but I wouldn't hate it. Excuse me, I wouldn't hate it if I just X'd him out a little bit. The Cincinnati side is really intriguing to me, just because like the Chase spend up is tough to get to. We talked about price sensitivity, so I would not be surprised if that ownership is fairly close to what it's going to be tomorrow, sub 10%. And pairing him up with Burrow, with Chase Brown is probably the path that I would go. In general, though, I don't love this game. Cincinnati has not really been the best fantasy scoring team this year, even in good scoring conditions. So for me, it's probably going to be a pass. I'll have a few, decent stacks of Cincinnati, but for the most part, it's probably going to be a skip game. I'm not in love with it, and I think the trend is down on the total.
All right, we got our guy Broccoli. He's not sleeping on a chain, so we talked about that and. Got tons of you guys in the chat. If you could hit that like, we would appreciate it, and keep putting your comments. I agree, man. And I'm big on Juju. We'll talk about that. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get there. Hopefully, I know he was questionable. I think he'll be good to go. But let's get to the next game. Everyone wants to talk about this game, the Vikings and the Lions. And man, this is the game I just don't know. I saw a chat earlier, a chat earlier in our message here. The guy said that the Vikings are like the second best team against the run. Like, listen, you know why they're second best team against the run? They're winning every single game. No one's running on them in the second half, right? They've been dominating everyone. This is going to be such a fun game as just a football watcher. DFS-wise, I'm very curious how it's going to go. My big thing is I think Justin Jefferson. He's kind of, pricey, and if he wins the slate, he wins the slate, and you need him. Same with St. Brown, right? He could easily win the slate, and you need him. One thing the Vikings, they're really good at, the Vikings are really good at getting pressure to the quarterback. And when they get pressure to the quarterback, that could be really good for someone like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown plays in the slot a bunch, get him some quick, easy targets. This could definitely be a spot where he does well. Same with like a Jahmyr Gibbs. I think this could be a good spot for him as well, where they just need him running the ball and receiving. And it's less of the David Montgomery just ground and pound all game long, where they need more of that finesse. So those are some of the guys that I'm looking at there. I also think Jordan Addison's a really interesting, contrarian pivot. He's one of those guys, if you play every single week, listen, some weeks will get you 2 and others will get you 20. You're just hoping that's the week. I'm curious if he gets steamed up a bit, though, just because he's in that good game. And then, of course, Aaron Jones, I know he's questionable a bit, so that's something that's concerning. And the other thing I don't mind about this game is the quarterback pricing, right? Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, they have solid prices where it's easy to put them onto your teams. But my biggest issue is when I look at this game versus the Falcons and the Seahawks, my biggest issue that I run into is I just think that game is better pricing than this one, where I think you could be priced out of plays and they just could be too expensive. So that's why I'm not going to be as high on this game. Of course, I'll have shares of some of these guys. Justin Jefferson in particular, I'll definitely make sure to kind of force him into some of my lineups. Kurt, are you forcing Justin Jefferson in this game?
I will. I think you made a good point about Amon-Ra St. Brown getting a lot of short stuff. I think Ben Johnson's game plan tomorrow, because this is on the road. They're playing a defense that has been doing a phenomenal job at disguising coverage. The old Miami Dolphins coach, he does an awesome. I mean, he's been giving quarterbacks fits, especially at home. So I'll be lower on Goff. I don't like Goff at all. I think they really try to establish it here and do a lot of the short game stuff with Amon-Ra St. Brown, a lot of screens, maybe some gimmicky stuff with Jameson Williams. I don't think they just go out and just do traditional air raid like some that they do in some of the games at home. So that's what I take from it. I guess Jameson Williams, 6K, and Amon-Ra St. Brown would be the two guys. And then the running backs, I don't know. I think they were going to establish it, but I don't really love them. I really like the Addison call, and I think he does get steamed up closer to lock, but I don't think I care. Still had 8 targets last week. He's 5,600 on a slate that's really tight in pricing, and he's playing at the pass funnel. So I think it's good chalk and Addison just because of the 8 targets last week and then the phenomenal first game back. So having that first game back with Darnold and having that good rapport and then following up with not a great game, but still getting 8 targets it's just hard for me to pass up 5,600 in a game. I think it's going to be great. So Addison, my favorite play from this game. Jones, I still think even if he plays, he can catch a lot of balls. And even though Detroit's awesome against the run, I think I honestly like him more than trying to pick one of the Lions guys just because it's 2. So the workload's massive. He will not be efficient on the ground, but if he plays, I think he can catch enough balls and fall in the end zone a couple times.
All right, Andrew, I am staying with Kurt. We're shacking up tonight. He's top bunk, I'm bottom bunk. That's how it goes. But Drew, we'll shift on over to you. Clearly going to be a game that you have to like. You're going to want to get some exposure, or maybe you're full fade. I don't know. You get crazy in the Millie Maker sometimes. I don't think that's a great idea, but let me know what you're thinking.
No full fade. Definitely like the Minnesota side a good bit. I'm a little bit different on. Well, I'll just finish with Minnesota. So I think Justin Jefferson's probably just the guy that I would spend up for. I have a few stacks with Darnold at the moment, but I probably won't play those tomorrow. It'll probably just be other cheaper stacks that we've talked about already, and then having the salary left to play Justin Jefferson. That's probably the plan. As far as Detroit goes, Minnesota's given up some decent yardage in the air, so I'm not afraid to play some golf stacks. I know Kurt disagreed with that, so I probably will not play any David Montgomery.
The second half, they've been up so big. Like they've basically just they've done prevent and gave up a lot of garbage stuff. But I still think you're better off attacking them through the air. But I think they do a great job of getting their quarterbacks again. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not gonna be too heavy on Detroit stacks overall, but I will have some Jared Goff stacks in those outcomes. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, $200 less than Justin Jefferson, so I'll probably be pairing him up with Goff. But overall, I'm more on the Minnesota side, and it's just playing for basically one guy on each side to have a big performance, and that's it. It's I don't know how you think through these sometimes, Mango, but like for me, it's sometimes looking at like how it's going to be dispersed, and I feel like a lot of these outcomes and like in the best scoring performances for Minnesota and Detroit, it's probably coming from one player. It's like Miami last year, although they had a few where everybody, turned it up. I feel like the big game from Minnesota would just be Justin Jefferson, big game. So that's kind of my path with this one.
I was on mute. My bad. So some of the counters I would make with it is like, if you do like, for instance, I think Johnny Munn's a great example, right? Like he doesn't really count. Like it's kind of like Cade Otton last week. Like I didn't really count Cade Otton and the Bucs defense as like a stacking partner with the Bucs, just because like you played him because he was cheap, right? And he got you 9 DK points. Like I could see that being like a Johnny Munn, right? Where like if you got 6 DK points, he was just part of the stack because it was an overstack, right? So I wouldn't rule out salary relief plays. Like another salary relief play I wouldn't rule out is like Khalif Raymond. I know that's like a crazy idea, but like he could house one and we're dying for salary. I'm sure he's like 3.3K. I haven't even looked, but I would at least, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but with us needing salary relief, I would at least think about the overstack of like a Darnold. Like if you did Darnold, Jefferson, and Johnny Mund, I don't think that's like you're wrong for that, just because of the salary relief that provides, and that will also allow you to get a Jahmyr Gibbs maybe in that lineup, right? So I would
to your point, that wouldn't even really be a stack in some senses. Like yes. I just clicked it just out of curiosity. Like the correlation with Justin Jefferson to Darnold is like 0.5, and then Munt to Sam Darnold is 0.2. So like you're almost just playing, a random tight end that's cheap. Like it's not even really a stack in that sense.
No, I'm with you. And I honestly think this game is really hard to stack up. So like I'm not excited to stack it up. I'm excited to take pieces of it here and there. but I don't want to stack it up for sure.
But that's a smart way to do it, where you're getting that extra exposure for that extra TD maybe from Sam Darnold, but you're not like giving up, 6K wide receiver or something like that.
I think in a sense it's similar to the Green Bay Houston game, except you don't have like the receiver, like the awesome, like the receivers too. Like I think it's a game I like, but there's no one really cheap, and there's not like the 2-star receivers. Like okay, here if this game goes off, it'll be Jefferson or it'll be St. Brown. And
sometimes you like games and you just can't play them.
That's exactly what the Houston game is for me. It's like okay, I'll take Mixon, but like then what? Then one other guy, I can't really do much with that. And in this game, it's like I can't take both of them, so I guess I'll take Jefferson and I'll run it back. I don't. It's expensive. It's a really expensive run back. That's how I think
Mangone's points makes a lot of sense. Where like you're just like you're stacking up the main guy, but like it's not a foul to like not stack the $2,800 tight end. He's just like a value filler. Like that's basically it. He just happens to fall from the same team you already stacked.
I don't like Goff, but the best probably would be St. Brown, Goff, running back with Addison. That's not that bad.
Correct. Like when I play cash games, like one thing I've noticed a trend over the past couple of years is like when just guys are out, you'll like want to load up on an offense. Like the one example was the Packers, right? Where you had Reed, you had Wicks, and you had Kraft, and they were all in a cash game out. I was like, Tucker Kraft isn't even part of the stack for me. He's just not, because he's a 3.5K tight end.
Cheap,
that just happens to grade out really well. And so I don't worry about that much. That's just something that I think we need to kind of think a little bit about. When people saw like that Buck stack win, they're like, that's just too many. And I'm like, no, not really. I mean, you had Bucky Irving, who was the guy that you just had to jam in this past week. You had Chris Godwin, who broke the slate. Then Baker Mayfield was a clear correlation. Otten happened to get 9, and the defense obviously did something, which, that works out. Could I see the same thing happen this week if Kenneth Walker's out? Zach Charbonnet's a lock. DK Metcalf could break the slate with a cheap Geno Smith. Noah Fant is just a value, or Farrell Brown to help make things work, and Seattle defense happens to score a touchdown. Yes, I could see that happen. So that's what I'm getting at. When looking at that, it just made sense. So when thinking of pricing, I just think this game's hard to get full stacks of. I mean, if you can get full stacks of it and you are with your optimizer, my best advice is click on those teams and look at them and see what they're doing, because I just think they could be like, I just think they're going to be really gross teams, and you're just going to realize it's not as good of like a setup.
Wasn't that the Millie Maker winner last week? He had like 4 Tampa Bay, and the defense, Tampa Bay defense, but it's because he was like 2,100 defense. Like he'd be probably just like, well, I already played 4 of them. Might as well play the defense. Like that's not smart to stack 5 in the Millie Maker. But if you just have a cheap spot left, you might as well just play the guys, play the team that you already stacked. So sometimes it's like you're not really inhibiting your correlation at that point.
Yes. So, all right. One last thing. I'll just say this. If Charbonnet is chalk, Justin Jefferson's ownership skyrockets. That's like a point that needs to be made. Like, and I see it at 9% right now. Kurt, what do you think his ownership comes in at by the end of it?
Who's that, Jefferson?
Yeah, Jefferson.
15-ish, 18.
Okay. I think it's 25. Kurt, Drew?
Yeah, I was going to say 15.
I mean, we'll see. I could be wrong, but I just think people will jam it.
It depends. If some value gets talked up, like someone like a really trusty value gets talked up, then obviously,
like Charbonnet's in or something like that.
Yeah.
Something random. Which always something random could come up.
The Charbonnet will definitely drive it up. That's the really, really big one for certain. So
I mean, did you see it was Kenneth Walker's birthday? So like maybe he was just like, I don't know, it's his birthday Sunday. Maybe he run out.
I don't know. He'll be fine. I think that's fine. All right, let's get to the next game. Maybe you guys have better takes than me on this game. Eagles and Giants, and someone's got to I can't play everyone, right? And Malik Neighbors kind of makes the I can't play everyone list, right? Like I like Drake London, I like Jefferson. I'm sure I'll have some Neighbors, but it'll be a lot less than some of these other plays that I like, just because I don't know. It's the Giants, and I just think it's a bit of an ugly game. I also think what's going to happen a little bit, I think this Giants defense is a little banged up. I think you are going to see the Eagles control the game a little bit more on the ground. I think you're just going to see it play a little bit more of a grinded out game. Doesn't mean I'm loading up on a Saquon Barkley, but I just think the game is going to play a little bit ugly. So when a game is going to play ugly, in my opinion, and I'm going to take a stand on it, I'm probably going to be very underweight on some of these plays. I do think for cheap, Calcaterra is a pretty good option at tight end. He's someone I'll definitely will be considering as a value because he's going to be the starter. So he is definitely someone that I'm looking at. I think the Saquon Barkley stuff, the revenge game, I mean, it's a clear revenge spot. This is like, if you had to like draw up like best revenge game of the season, this might be the revenge game of the season, if that matters to you. But I'm thinking of pricing, and I just think the price is too damn high. I doubt I'll have much. If I do, it'll probably be like 5 or 10%. It just kind of squeaks in there because the Sims kind of do it, but I prefer Kyron to him at that range. And I don't love it. Now, if I do play Malik Neighbors, I think it makes a lot of sense to do what Drew said. If you're playing Malik Neighbors, play Daniel Jones with it. He runs a little bit. It's a good pass spot. Like, I think it's very similar to the Tyler Huntley stuff that he was talking about. So, Kurt, I'll get your opinion on this first. Eagles and Giants.
First of all, I got to address Drew, who says, I don't think NFL cares about Kenneth Walker's birthday. Buddy, what I'm implying here is that he went out and got fucked up, and then he showed up to the building the next day and couldn't practice because he had a tummy ache. And by the league mandate, they had to report that he's questionable now because of an illness because the motherfucker so hungover. So I'm not saying they care about birthdays. I'm just saying what the NFL mandate is, and he's not actually questionable. He's just a little hungover. Anyways.
So you're not saying he's going to get the day off because it's his birthday?
I thought so, Drew. I thought it was a birthday party. I thought everyone's going to wear like no helmets. We're just going to wear birthday hats.
Yeah, he just sits on the sideline. He's there. He's just having the day off.
Okay, we got two pass funnels here. But like Mango said, I think the Eagles might just try to grind this out. Give Shaquan like 30 carries in his revenge game. He thinks he won't get booed. I think obviously he'll probably will come out here and get booed. And then I want to see a motivated Shaquan Barkley. I'm interested to see that. Easily run it back with Neighbors in a pass funnel. I think they're going to be low owned. I fall for this shit with the Eagles every week. And I'll probably do it again, but I will be overweight on Barkley and Neighbors. I don't know if I can recommend it. Yeah, Shaquan. I can't say.
I was going to say.
Shaquan. So like when I grew up, we had a kid that went to Hinden, and that's how you pronounce it. So it's
how are you doing it?
Shaquan instead of Saquon. It's
Shaquan.
Shaquan.
Like
Shaquan Miller was who I played against when I was little, so that's like every time I see
like his name's Shaquan, but with an S at the beginning.
Shaquan. Then you got Quan Alexander playing for the Bucks all those years. I can't. It's not Shaquan to me. You guys have the W in there.
Gosh, I don't even know what to say, but this is I'll tell you that. So
God, like why like Browns? Like come on, they could have made AJ Brown like 7,400. Like come on, I still want to play him, but 8K, yeah. Bro. I'm good. I don't need to play too much of this game, but maybe you got different, Drew. I do agree on the Jones stuff. Like I said, I'm curious here if you've been. Sounds like you were dialed in on that, but what's some of the other stuff you're looking at here?
You pretty much hit the nail on the head. That's kind of I've unfortunately been getting that crammed all season, but Daniel Jones stacks, Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. If you look at Robinson's volume over pretty much the whole season, but his last 4 games, he's got 8 targets, 14 targets, 9 targets, 11 targets. So at his price, 6,100, it seems expensive, but he's getting close to 10 targets. With Daniel Jones only 5,400, and then Malik Neighbors is only 7,500. To me, that's a pretty good stack. So like, the team total doesn't look as appealing, but I think from a fantasy perspective, that's a pretty good stack, in my opinion. It's Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. Philadelphia, you would think would have better fantasy appeal. To me, it doesn't. Saquon Barkley is too expensive for me to click, at least in the game script that I would envision with New York Giants keeping up. And then Grant Calcaterra that you mentioned, 3,200 is a pretty good cheap one. And that maybe to your same point as the last game, like that wouldn't even be really considered a run back. It would probably just be, a value spot, a guy that's going to get 3 or 4 targets, maybe a touchdown, and call it a day. But for me, I think the New York Giants side for fantasy is way more appealing, and it's easier to stack. So like I'm kind of looking at stacking opportunities too, and I think the Daniel Jones price offers that with Wan'Dale Robinson's volume.
I like the Calcaterra call.
Out of all that, that's all you like. Thanks.
I like all of it, but I like going off historical stuff, and the Giants I like targeting them against tight ends, and he's cheap. Goddard's out, so
my favorite part of this game was
one.
Yeah, I like the Calcaterra stuff. I actually bet his over on receiving yards. So
this is such a tight end game. Like Theo or Calcaterra, just take your 5, move on. I mean,
I don't know about Theo though.
Come on, why not Theo?
My favorite part about this game was Saquon Barkley and Malik Neighbors, not Malik. No. Malik's.
No, I'm sorry.
Everyone in the comments saying different versions. Just Shaney Quan, Barkley, Nuke, and Quan, and
Listen,
It's all right.
I call guys.
so good.
I did a show. It was like the second week with Seattle, and I was saying Jackson Smith-Njigba. Jackson Smith-Njigba. Then Snyder gets on. He goes, "Yeah, JSN I like is fine. JSN." I was like, "Fuck!" Could have just said JSN. Yeah. It's so hard to say Jackson Smith-Njigba for.
I love saying that though.
7 sentences.
Jackson Smith.
It is a fun one to say, but it takes up a lot of.
You usually don't pronounce the G and stuff like that. It's like just like a silent G you'd expect. But anyways,
Njigba.
Yeah,
dude, like, who's the guy that plays the rap?
Pronunciations there. I'll say that. Mr. Drew agrees. They're good on paper, but if they aren't getting 30 plus this week, then there are other spots that are cheaper. Yes, I agree. If they don't get 30 plus,
where's the cheaper spots?
Well, maybe the cheaper spot is Raiders and Rams. That's the next one up that we're going to discuss. Hey, there's plays in this game. This is not a game that you can
get a white side.
A JJR, yeah, that's a call out right there.
Carolina,
we'll get the
good point, Drew.
We'll get to Carolina, Washington. We'll get there. That's the next one up. But after the one we're talking about now, which is Rams and Raiders, which I'm excited about this game. For one, when Brock Bowers busted the first week, he busted that first week, and I didn't play much of him, but I was like, okay, this is a generational guy. I'm just loading up on him going forward, and I am. I don't care. I'm playing him. I'm playing him this week. This is such a dream spot against the Rams. I'll be at least even with the field or overweight. Hopefully I can get overweight, but we'll have to see. I do think he's a great play, and I think he's good chalk. It is tight salary this week, but I do feel pretty confident he is really good chalk. Colby Parkinson, not excited about that chalk, I'll say, at 3.8K. I don't think that's great chalk. I shouldn't say it's chalk, but it's going to have some ownership at the tight end position. Kyron Williams is 8.1K. He is definitely a really solid play. He's my favorite spend up running back, but honestly, I just don't know how much I'm going to get up to him. And then the Cooper Kupp stuff is going to adjust as well. If Cooper Kupp is in, that could easily hurt some of Kyron's role just because they're using him a lot in the pass game. They're just leaning on him so much, and that will hurt Whittington. And if Cooper Kupp is out, well, that could help someone like Whittington. It could help Demarcus Robinson. So we are still waiting on some news in this game, which makes it kind of difficult to discuss this game. For me, though, if Cooper Kupp is in, I don't want to play him. I will let other people chase that. I know he won't be owned. I am just a little worried about basically his health. It just sounds like he's not 100% there, and he's trying to push it to give it a go, and I'm not that interested. Kurt, how are you handling this one?
I like the chat talking about the Corum with the 5 carries, 25 yards last week. That is, I don't know why they don't start giving him more carries, just because he's obviously more of an efficient runner than Kyron, I think. It depends what, honestly, the style of run, too. But I think they should at least give Kyron a little bit of a rest. I agree with you there about how he's going to at least lose a lot of the targets and stuff if Cooper Kupp is back. So we'll kind of cover that when we get there. Bowers, I was exactly with you. Like, I wanted to ride the shit out of it after he busted week. I was actually so happy he busted week 1. It depends how tomorrow works out. I would love to jam him as much as possible, but salary is kind of prohibiting me from going too crazy. I also don't know what to do about the Rams or the Raiders running back situation. Madison's cheap, has a good matchup, should be fine. This is a game I know I'm going to screw up, so I'll let Drew talk more about it. I really like playing the Raiders, like cheap pass catchers for like really cheap. Turner, Tucker, cool with those guys. And then I would love to play Corum, but I don't have those big of balls. Pause.
I would love to know. I don't know when he said pause. Did you say something?
Every time I open my mouth, there's got to be something in there. It's you can definitely
there
use
was
the pause.
Talk, there was JSN. There was a lot going on this show. So I just didn't know where he was. So I was curious. But anyways, Drew, I'll go to you. I think this is one of those cases of I'm not stacking this game up, but I think we can pick and choose some pieces, but we're also waiting on news as well. So how are you handling this one?
Yeah, that's kind of where I stand. I think I'm same boat as you guys with Brock Bowers. Obviously, super chalk 1 week, and then he busts. You go heavy the next week, and it seems like it's been a trend the rest of the season. So I don't mind doing that. He is expensive, so just trying to find the right lineups to fit him in, where you can find some cheap stacks around him. I will say Alexander Mattison at 5,500. I think Rams are last in rushing defense, so it's probably not a bad play. He's going to, I don't think that's the right ownership, but he's probably going to be close. I mean, sub 5% or something like that. So I think that's your Millie Maker play type from the Las Vegas side. And then for the Rams, I mean, honestly, I think Kieran at 8,100 is expensive, but he's been getting really good workload. He projects well. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't play him. He's only at 23% owned at the moment. Outside of that, though, it's just like one-off pieces. I know you didn't like Colby Parkinson, but 3,800, I'll probably play some. He's not chalk yet, but maybe he trends that way. He's 7% according to SS. So, but yeah, there's plenty of decent spots, assuming Kupp doesn't play tomorrow, from the Rams that are very cheap. But I don't love stacking it up. It's going to be one-offs mostly. And then from Las Vegas, like I said, it's Bowers and Madison.
Yeah, and well, let's take a baseball break. Man, Giancarlo Stanton, another bomb. My goodness, the guy is tied it up 2-2. So I'll be watching that when I get off. And Mr. Jensen, you might want to get off if you're doing AOC stacks. I don't know. I mean, it's not the worst idea, but I'm just.
I ran
just
this is one of the first thing that Saber gave me tonight when I ran stuff was AOC. And I was like,
well, to the counter of what a trend on the show we've talked about. If you think Brock Bowers breaks the slate at 25 and we need a cheap guy to come along with it at quarterback, it's not crazy. Now, I wouldn't double stack. Like, I don't know what you're adding on the stack with AOC and Bowers. Like, I guess you would add Trey Tucker maybe. But listen, there's been crazier things. I'm just messing with you, Mr. Jensen. So, but that's kind of the thought process there. Drew, you're kind of on the team cheap quarterback with me. Do you think you could do the AOC thing? Is that crazy?
I mean, I don't have a lot of it, but it's not crazy. Honestly, I would probably, I don't know, in the Millie Maker, you say the $10, maybe you punt off O'Connell, Tucker, and Turner, super, super cheap, and then you have serious spend ups, and maybe all the other cheap values bust, and you have like the expensive studs that go off. That's one Millie Makers in the past, so maybe that's an angle. Yeah. So slightly different than you of pairing them with Bowers. You take the super cheap route that stacks them that way.
Yeah. I mean, listen, crazy is how you can win. I agree. Listen, Drew has won a Millie Maker, not in NFL, but he has won one. So, hey, he can give us some pretty solid info on how to do it. So, but do you have any crazy guys on that team, Drew, or no? Was it chalkier? Can't remember.
No, I remember. It was, I think the lowest one was 6% owned, but I think I had 3 guys under 10%. So,
okay.
Nothing like 0.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, 6, 8, and 9, I think it was the cheapest or the lowest.
Gotcha.
You got to find them. You just got to be smart about it.
Yes, you have to be smart about it, right? And like, that's why again, I don't think the AOC thing is actually as crazy. And again, I haven't ran too many teams and everything. I've looked at this like pretty in depth, but I haven't like gotten deep in the weeds building, and I will get deep in the weeds, and I definitely will be considering some cheap quarterbacks. Like I said, I played Will Levis last week, so and I actually didn't get murdered. I thought I would have got absolutely murdered, and I didn't, just because again I had a lot of those stud receivers that I wanted to get, and common trend. I want to get some studs this week in there, so I'm gonna have to find some ugly quarterbacks to play at times, but.
A lot of it depends on how many lineups you're playing, which is kind of funny. Like if you build one lineup, like, yeah, you can punt off some stupid stuff. If you had 10, then you want to like mix and match some some decent chalk with some lower owned. And if you had 150, then yeah, maybe you have like 10 AOC stacks out of your 150. Like maybe that's the right exposure. But yeah, you just got to think about it from, what are you playing and, how much risk you want to take. But there's really nothing too crazy when you're talking about the Millie Maker with 180,000 people, however many is in it this week. You gotta be a little bit different somewhere.
All right, well, let's talk about the game of why I'm doing everything I'm doing this week. Why am I spending down at quarterback? Why am I doing that? Well,
Washington.
I don't want to play Jaden Daniels. Now, I get it. He's good at football. He'll be in my cash games probably, or at least in consideration, right? I mean, if you run cash game lineups, he's in the conversation. But I think flipping the build with the cheaper quarterbacks is the better way to go in tournaments. I understand they have a 30 team total, but they have a lot of running backs. I also am worried about, will this Carolina team actually push them? Now, if you do play some Washington guys and you want to go cheap and think it gets pushed, Andy Dalton's 5.2K. You could obviously consider that. So that's definitely in the conversation. I think if you're going cheap quarterbacks, I think Terry McLaurin at 6'8", yeah, he's someone you can obviously put there. And then you got the Zach Ertz stacking partner with Jaden Daniels. If you do want to play Jaden, Zach Ertz at least helps mitigate the cost of him. And you could put like a Xavier Legette in there, or you could put Chuba Hubbard. So a lot of different plays to discuss here. For me, I'm definitely going to be very low on this game. I think there's ways to make this game work. But Kurt, how are you handling this one?
I mean, how about old man Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, 5,200? Washington, I would just keep. I called my mom last week. Like, this attack, I just always just forget. Did you have to attack the absolute shit out of this secondary because they are absolutely horrendous? I feel a lot better about it if Johnson's A-okay and good to go because he can get open so easily on against man coverage and knows where to find the holes in his own defense. So I'm going to keep. I think that fits their cheap quarterback mold. I think even if he's out, I'll still try to make it work with some Leggett and even Mingo's dusty ass. I think the tight end Sanders is really cheap too. You can also attack that secondary with tight ends. Hubbard's too priced up for me. He could still put up a big game, but I'm off of it. And obviously I'll have a shit ton of Eckler if we get the Robinson news. And if Robinson's in, I'll probably play him because it's an awesome matchup. The pricing lets you go like 3-ish very comfortably, and then even four guys if it does get there because the pricing is so nice. But those are really the main guys, and would like to be over on Dalton. Even if Johnson doesn't play, I think his ownership is going to like plummet, and I kind of want to still be given some faith in the old man and pass it around to Leggett and Mingo and those young guys.
Yeah, speaking of young guys, Tavion Sanders at tight end. If you're going to punt, why not punt down with him? I don't think he's a bad option for sure. But again, I don't want to be crazy with this game. I'll consider some plays. But at the end of the day, when I kind of build out my lineups, these are some of the guys that might get cut from my teams. Drew, how about you?
Yeah, I'll be a little bit different. So I don't know if the ownership's going to be exactly what we're currently looking at, but if so, I think this is like a stay away game. To be honest, like especially Carolina side, like I see 3 guys over 20%. Like that's a stay away. Like Xavier, I'm not going to play a $5,100 receiver that's getting 6 targets or less every single game for 30% ownership.
There's no way he's going to be 30%. Who has him at 30%?
We'll pull it up, buddy.
Hey, you're ready to learn Chinese, buddy. How about that?
Who did you mention?
Xavier. He's 30% on here.
Wouldn't you Xavier these nuts, Drew?
Yeah.
Is he not?
Let me see. Is he 30? Let's see.
Is he not? He's.
Yeah. I mean, Saber does have him high.
So I mean, I know Ruby always says, "Well, wait until 11 or 12:59 and then rerun it." But
we don't. Drew, here's the point. We do not have value. So, yes, he probably will be.
Maybe, yeah. So there you go.
He'll be owned. Like I said, if Charbonnet comes in as the value, that will change things. But we definitely don't have value. So I don't disagree with what you're saying.
So then that's probably where it's coming from. So, I mean, it remains to be seen here. If it's going to be this own, I'm not going to play much Carolina side. I will say Washington I have more interest in, not just because of the team total, but I do think the upside with specifically Terry McLaurin. He's probably my favorite play of this game. And then Jaden Daniels. Like if I'm going to play some Terry McLaurin, I'm obviously I'm not going to stack him in every single lineup, but I'm going to play some Jaden Daniels stacks with McLaurin. And I'm probably going to play him with Eckler, to be honest. Like Eckler's still getting 4 or 5 targets along with the rushing. The 30 points could come from those 2 guys alone. So for me, I'm more off the Carolina side, especially with the ownership, if that's how it shakes out. Which is just crazy to me. But then the Washington side, I think McLaurin is a phenomenal play at 6,800. Jaden Daniels is expensive, but you can still get him in the right spots. And I think Eckler is like the sneaky upside play of stacking him. He's not going to be low owned, but he's going to be not stacked enough with McLaurin, in my opinion. I think that's the way I want to go. But McLaurin as a one-off or just stacking him, he's the best play in this game, in my opinion.
Okay, so I'll ask you guys another question. Is Brian Robinson Jr., is he officially in or out? Do we have that status yet?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. I've been doing college football stuff all day, so I wanted to check. I saw Saber currently has Robinson Jr. for a 0. I haven't seen anything on it. Has anyone else seen anything on it?
DK doesn't have them out, and they're usually pretty quick to update. So
yeah. Okay. I just want to check because I saw Saber.
Honestly, I think he would play then. It just says he was limited on Friday practice. So that seems positive to me.
I think he plays too. Like I mean, he practiced on Friday, but if he doesn't play, yes, Austin Eckler would be like a very elite play at 5'9". I think he's an okay play. Like, and he's still going to get work. And honestly, the RB2s have been pretty good against Carolina. And here's another thing you can do. Let's say Robinson Jr. does sit. Let's just say he does. You can't tell me McNichols isn't like actually in play at 4.4K because he is. Like he is at 4.4 if that happens. So we'll have to wait and see. If I do play anything from this game, it probably will be more the running backs and even Chuba Hubbard. Chuba keeps chugging along and I'm okay with it. So, all right. Last game of the slate, and I think it's a good one. I don't see myself stacking it up, but I see myself getting pieces of this game. It's the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. I know our guy AP will be excited for this game. It'll be a fun game to watch in general, but DFS-wise, we won't be loading up on it. I mean, Pat Mahomes right now is, not a DFS-friendly quarterback, right? He's just not. The price isn't there. I'm not playing Pat Mahomes. I'll play other quarterbacks. I'd play Brock Purdy over him if I had to, but I'm not dying to play Brock Purdy because I talked about a lot of other guys that I'd rather get to, and of course, he's going against Kansas City, tougher defense. I'm actually looking at the tight ends in this game, and I know they are expensive, but Travis Kelce, I think he's definitely in play. I love George Kittle in this spot. I think this is a great George Kittle spot. We've seen Kansas City kind of get beat up by the tight ends. I think they feed him a ton, so I think it's a good spot for George Kittle this week, but I really like Juju. Now, we'll see with the hamstring. I want to see the status more. We'll see all the conversations tomorrow and how his hamstring is. Maybe Ian Rappaport will say it's bad, and then Schefter will say it's good, and we'll have a battle of who's right. I don't know what's going to happen, but for me, I think Juju, if we're not talking about his hamstring, we're just saying, hey, Juju Smith-Schuster in this role, he's in the Rashee Rice role. If I told you, you could have an off-brand version of Rashee Rice for 4K, I'd be interested. Like, it's 4K. Now, as it gets expensive, when it becomes 5K, 6K, I'll start having the conversation. But at 4K, I want a piece of that, right? If I could have CeeDee Lamb, but an off-brand version for 4K, I'm interested. So I'm interested in Juju here in this spot as long as he is healthy. Kurt, how about you?
I want this LSU running back to fucking snap one so bad. I hate this guy. He's fucking debating my existence. Fucking Durham, I fucking hate you. I hope he never makes the NFL. So fucking sick of this guy, bro. Juju. I like Juju. 4K. I mean, I was telling people last week exactly what you were. Like, he's a poor man's equate version of Rashee Rice, and I'll play him at 4K. No issue there. I think they said he is going to play. It's just in case he messes it in warm-ups or something, which is always possible with those hamstrings and stuff. I don't mind Kareem Hunt at low ownership for the Millie Maker. It seems like they're just going to keep giving him the entire workload since Carson Steele fumbled his first game, Hunt's first game active, and they just like never looked back. So 6K, not terrible for this slate. San Fran has been a little susceptible to the run more in years past this year. So I don't mind those two guys. Kelce, yeah, I think I'd rather just play Kittle or Bowers, to be honest, but I totally get where you're going there. That's really just it for me. Like, I don't want to really play. Obviously, not playing Mahomes. I think Purdy is honestly fine for a game that maybe they do put up some points, but the Chiefs haven't really shown that to do that much this year like they have in like 2 or 3 years ago. So really just got a couple one-offs for me here. Nothing crazy. And I really like having those one-offs, though, just to have a piece of this game feels comfy.
Yeah, I definitely think you want to get some pieces, but you don't need to. There's better games on this slate for sure.
Yeah.
Drew, if I'm shopping at the store and I see Frosted Flakes and I see Tony the Tiger and it costs me like $10, and I see Frosted Flakes with a giant polar bear and it costs me like $4, I'm going to be honest. I'm getting the $4 polar bear Frosted Flakes. How about you?
Well, I'm getting both.
You're getting both. Okay.
We'll taste test, and then we'll go back to the store. We'll see. But that's actually pretty comparable because I'll taste test Juju Smith. We're going to wade into the waters at 4K. I've been burned enough by Juju Smith-Schuster this season and prior seasons. I'm not going to go too heavy. A 4K Juju has never paid off for me, at least. So, but he does make a lot of sense. And honestly, if he's going to be their number one receiver, you want to consider it at least. So, yeah, no issues there. But I'm kind of with you overall in this game. I'm kind of lower on it. I mean, Mahomes, I don't have his last few games passing totals, but I know I've gone over on his passing yards, and he has yet to hit an over on his passing yards props in the last couple weeks, or at least in the showdown slate. So not super excited there. I do like the call on Kittle and Kelsey as far as tight ends go. Like, that makes a lot of sense. And I will say the one that if the ownership holds true, and maybe I'm missing something, but I know so far this season, Kansas City has been really good against the run, and maybe that's the reason why. But like, I don't know why Mason would be, 2% owned. That would probably be the play that I would look to maybe bump up my exposure a little bit. But overall, I think you're fine. Like, any of the stacking on San Francisco has been pretty good. They've kind of been like a cheap, or not cheap, but like a God, what did you just say? Knockoff Tampa Bay, knockoff
Equate version.
Off brand is what I said.
Yeah, off brand. There you go. Thank you.
Equate version.
Equate. Well, yeah, kind of. More of like the Fruit Loops, but then it's like Fruit Dupes or something, Like, you go to Aldi and you get like the stupid comparable.
I was going to say Aldi next. That's funny.
But like, I think, honestly, I don't think all season you could go wrong with stacking up San Francisco. But my only, contrarian take from a Millie Maker would be like, Mason's been 30% owned, and now they're facing like a decent run defense, and he's not going to be owned at all. Like, I'll take a shot that maybe he has like the performance against the Chiefs this season. So that's pretty much it. I, stack up a little bit of San Francisco, and then Kansas City, Juju's fine, but I do think the best plays are the tight ends in both spots.
And by the way, I did a quick Google search. There are a lot of off-brand versions of Fruit Loops, right? We got Fruit Rounds, Fruit Spins, Silly Circles, Tutti Fruities, Fruity Floats, Fruit Ovals, Fruitylicious Rings.
The best is when you go to like Sam's Club or Costco and they have like the 10-pound bags of Fruit Loops, and you walk up like, fuck, it's Fruit Loops. And it's fucking Fruit Spins.
Yeah, that's what I'm staring at.
But it's only $2. So
there's a big bag, and they're called Tutti Fruities.
Tutti Fruities.
There you go. So, all right. Well, that's all the games of the slate. Drew, refresh my memory. Does Rubio do 2 plays, or does he do like 1 play that has to be under 8% or something? Yeah. Is that how it works?
Yeah, your I forget what he calls it. Whatever, your Millie Maker play of the day. But yeah, it's 1 play under 8%. And we get a veto because he tried to tell us CeeDee Lamb was going to be under 8% when he was 30% or something one week. Or it was DK Metcalf or something. So we get a veto if you want to be slick.
I'm willing to call up the vetoes if someone does that. So I'm in. And yes, the cereal is packaged like dog food. That is correct. That's good.
He's been funny as shit. Who is that? The Gale. I like him. I've never seen him before.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Gale.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the game. I wasn't familiar with the game.
He's got a couple in there. He's got some good ones.
Yeah, he's got some good ones.
I'm not a fan of Jeremy. He's saying my Mason lineup's going to be last. That's unfair.
Yeah.
It won't cash, but it won't be last.
It's okay. The worst person of the show is the guy kept deleting his comments. He left. At least I think, unless he just is still listening.
Was it? Remember his name.
XCM dude. He's always in the chat being annoying. If you're still here, and because I never banned him, I just kept deleting his comments and just quietly silenced, didn't say a word, and I think he just left.
It's probably Kurt on his phone.
XCM, no, it's not.
It's Kurt trolling. Yeah.
What is he saying?
They're just saying, like, how much money do these guys play? Like, these guys have never won anything. Like, just like it was.
I mean, buddy, we can pull up the taxes, my guy. I promise. We can pull them up.
I don't need. Listen, I don't need to because Drew's won $1 million. Like, that's all I'm saying. This guy won $1 million. That's all. I
will say the most embarrassing thing about that was I asked DK for one of those giant checks from like Happy Gilmore,
he had schizophrenia.
and they're like, "No, but you have $1 million. You could go buy one." I was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna spend money on $1 million, like a big check. Like, Drew, I just want a big check behind it,
Drew, I'm gonna be honest. I would have done the same thing. I would have sent.
I thought that'd be normal.
Yeah. That's. I would think the same.
I want to be like Peter Jennings, to be honest. Yeah. And have a big fucking check.
So they only do it for the live championships?
Yeah, I think the live championships they do it. But
there you go, Drew.
It would have been so sick, dude. I guess I could still buy one, but now it's not even fun.
It's too late.
It's past the due date.
Yeah, it's past the due date. All right, let's get to the plays of the day. Does anyone have theirs ready to roll? Is anyone like ready to use theirs right now?
But I can get it quick. Hang on.
If we're going snake draft, I can get my one. I got one ready.
Is it snake draft? I thought it's only one play.
Oh, it's only one? Okay, I got mine.
Ruben just wants one Millie Maker play, one under 8%. That's going to be the best ceiling or whatever on the slate, under 8%.
Yeah, I have one in mind, but I just don't know if I want to use it. Yeah, I don't. Do you have one, Kurt? Are you ready to go?
I mean, I'm guessing this. I don't think the guy's ownership's right. Am I looking at the right thing? Adjusted ownership. Is that the right thing I'm looking at, Drew?
No, you want my ownership.
You're lying. That's opposite.
No, I'm not. Adjusted ownership doesn't even sum to 1,000% or whatever the number of roster spots are.
Okay, so what's Jordan Addison coming in at?
Oh God, you make me do your work.
Jordan.
No, I'm typing it in.
Yeah, he's under 2%. There you go.
I see 1.69.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, 1.6.
I mean, first of all, 6'9". I'm definitely doing it. Jordan Addison, yeah, easily my favorite play of the day tomorrow.
All right. I do think it will be below 8, but I think it'll be closer to 6%. I'm just gonna say.
I agree. No, I think it could be closer to 8. I think it'd be like 6.
Cue up Rubio Dime. Saber has until right before lock, so just want to let you guys know
precisely.
Yeah. Alexander, I didn't want to say 20, but I think it could get above that. It could get above 8, not 20. I think it can get above 8. But I don't want to say he's a bad play because I think he's still a good play. Okay, I'll go next because I think my play isn't. I think my play will be under 8%. I just don't think people are paying for tight ends, and if they are, they're just saying Brock Bowers is him, and I'm playing that guy. And again, I like Brock Bowers. Will have exposure, but give me George Kittle. He will be my play of the day, and hopefully he is below or under 8%. So, Drew, you're up next. Who's your play of the day?
Yeah, I really want to do Terry McLaurin, but he's slightly over 8%. But I'll go with McLaurin Jr., Jaden Reed, 7,200.
There you
he's
go.
Under 1%, supposedly.
Yep, he's a good play. He'll be lower owned too. Like I said, like Diggs is going to be hard to get up to. Reed, people just aren't going to get up to them for sure. If they do play someone in that game, they're going to Tank Dell. That's like kind of the guy I think most people will gravitate towards for sure. But it's been a fun show. Chat was a good time as well. Chat had a lot of fun talking about everything. And what if you guys had to pick Kittle or Bauer? Who would you take?
I mean, but the ownership.
I would take Kittle. Kittle.
Okay.
For the ownership, Kittle.
That's what I think too. But obviously, it depends how many lineups you're playing, right? I'm going to have enough where I'm going to be able to get exposure to both. And I'll tell you this.
They'll have more red zone opportunities. They should. So that's also why for me.
I mean, the ceiling's probably similar too, honestly.
Yeah, but I think the ceiling is shifted to the right for Kittle.
Because touchdowns.
Yeah.
I would look at that's when you go.
It happens more often.
One thing that's not.
I mean, if we're betting like a receptions prop, I'll take Bowers, but like we're not.
Yeah, one thing to do sometimes is like just go look at the touchdown props sometimes, and like I forget. I think I was doing like some showdown slate or something, and I was considering Hunter Henry once, and I was like, this dude is a plus 500 like touchdown prop. Like, why am I playing? You know what I mean? Like, it's 5-1. What are we doing? So, touchdown props definitely give those a look at times for sure. But all right, that's gonna wrap it up for us. Yeah, DT. That's a throwback of a show. RIP DT. That's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks a lot for joining us on the Millie Maker Roundtable show. Hopefully Rubio will be back to give you all the chalky plays to play for his plays of the day. But for me, Kurt, and Drew, we'll see you guys later.